We're back. We're
I'd like to
reconvening.
call our regular board meeting back into order, and the next item on the agenda is to actually accept the remainder of the agenda for the evening. And I'm not aware of any suggested modifications, so is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So
Well, are
moved.
we moving the
Yes, I wanted to.
CUSR budget, right?
Oh,
Did you note that, Michael?
Oh.
It was recommended to move that up
I missed that.
So
Yep.
since we have
we have a
Yeah.
guest here.
Okay,
in page 2 on the agenda.
all right.
Okay, so I move we move the CUSR budget up on the agenda. Someplace else. Wherever he's gonna be. Where we're gonna put Jamil, we'll move him. Okay, so
but
we'll move him up ahead of
Have
him.
mercy on
Okay.
Jamil, okay.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. Next item is public comment. I'm not sure I see anybody from the public chomping at the bit to speak to us. So I think we can.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a new,
Sorry.
dang.
Well, darn. And no staff introductions. So let's move on then to Jamil and the new business item A.
Great. Jamil, come on up.
Or come on down.
Jamil's here tonight to give us an overview of budget and plans at CU Special Rec. We just had a recent board meeting and have things pulled together. Thank you for coming.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm flying solo tonight. Christina wasn't feeling very well, and Corky wanted to make sure that I was here, so he made sure to send me that message. So thank you for having me this evening. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jamil Jones, Director of Recreation for the Champaign Park District. I am the direct supervisor on the Champaign side for CUSR, and work closely with the staff on the day-to-day operations of CUSR. And 1/4 of the CUSR admin team that oversees the organization. So I sent a memo along just to provide a little bit of background on how the budget process works on our side of town, and specifically related to CUSR. Within the Recreation Department, there are 5 different divisions, and CUSR is one of them, which is, don't tell anyone, it's one of my favorite divisions. But we are definitely gaining some momentum. We are fully staffed, so that's a good clap. We have pretty much actually 3 or 4 of the, all 4 of the staff have started working at CUSR in the lower levels of the programming aspect, working day camp. Our recent, one of our recent staff that just got hired with CUSR is a gentleman named Cole, and he actually just interned with CUSR. So all of the staff have kind of grown up through CUSR and are now kind of taking the reins and providing as many programs and opportunities and services as they can. So a little bit of background about the staff there. As far as the process, for our budget process, I mentioned it within the memo some of the policies that we follow, especially with new staff, to make sure that they are operating within the auspices of the Park District and falling in line with the policies that we have established for all of our recreation services at the Park District. Those policies are the comprehensive year-round recreation policy, the program statistics policy, policy on volunteers, and the programs and facilities evaluation policy. Each of these policies ensure staff are incorporating the mission into review, planning, and implementation phases of the services offered to the community, as well as being guided by the CUSR strategic plan. Now that plan is 2022 to 2024, so we'll be working to edit and revise that plan here for the next 3 years, starting probably in the next 6 months. So staff have been directed to start thinking about current trends, trying to do their best to project and plan for the future for CUSR. So I'm sure we'll be able to share that information as we get that established. Some of the main components that we're trying to do just to recover from COVID, and just kind of the getting people back into the groove of attending programs, is trying to really work with the lower level users that have participated in the program over the last couple of years and try to get them to participate even more. One of the things that we did to gauge the interest and kind of have a better understanding of what our clientele are looking for, we recently did an assessment survey. And that was sent out to a variety of people. We had 45 survey participants participate, and it ended up being about an 89% completion rate. So a lot of good input provided on the program, what people have experienced, what they like about it. Talked about some of our core areas, which is transportation, special events, how we can attract and retain more youth into the program, because if we get them as they're young, then hopefully they'll be, as we like to call, lifers within the program. And then also working with all the other traditional programs to make sure that inclusion services are provided, and that anyone that attends any program, whether Champaign or Urbana, has a quality experience. It has the opportunity to be part of the program with no, kind of, I guess, any, what would be the word I'd say? Basically being included in the program, right? So inclusion is about making it seamless for them to have an enjoyable experience and recreate, just like anyone else would that would come to a normal program. And then at the same time, trying to attract new users. We're building more contacts with the school districts on both sides of town, Champaign and Urbana, to make sure that they understand what CUSR is, what it entails, how can we assist, as well as providing opportunity to them to support their efforts within their program through IEPs or just working with the parents to make sure that they have an outlet or a place to come. And that being CUSR. A good testament of that is we had a sensory egg hunt this past weekend. Very good turnout. Some pretty good news coverage regarding the event. And it's continuing to grow. We do this at our Prairie Farm operation over at Centennial Park, and people just have a blast. I know last year I attended. I wasn't able to make it this year, but last year I attended, and the kids left. I want to say those parents were probably going a little crazy, stir crazy when they got home, because every kid left with 2 bags full of candy. So this year is kind of pretty much the same. So they're definitely enjoying the opportunity and appreciating the fact that we are providing as many sensory-friendly opportunities at the beginning or standalone opportunities related to some of our other events that take place within the district. An example of that would be our Touch Truck event. There's a sensory-friendly hour. We've done sensory-friendly swims on both sides, Champaign and Urbana. So making sure that our participants have an opportunity to be in the mix and experience every facility that we have and have a good time. So some of the highlights that took place over the year and we plan to see within the future here is our main fundraiser, which is the Cupcake 5K. This past year we had nearly 400 participants participate in that. We moved the location from Parkland College, as we all know that there's kind of some issues with Parkland Way, and I've been out there in the past myself and kind of been a course monitor, and sometimes you have to kind of jump in front of a car to stop people from entering onto the course. So with that, we moved it over to Carl at the Trail Fields, which is the trail out by the Y and the development that has begun over there. And it was a really great opportunity. I know Tim can probably share a little comments on that, as he gave out probably more cupcakes than he was planning to that morning. So it's been pretty busy. It's been well received. It's continuing to grow. So we will continue to have that event there until we can sneak in over here at Meadowbrook.
Well,
So
the ITEP project is moving forward this year, so it started actually, right? Or going to?
Just started. Yep.
Yeah.
So the goal is to continue to work in both cities and make sure that we're spreading the love and having events kind of flip-flop from year to year, and we're increasing those efforts. And staff are working more jointly with Urbana Park District staff as well, and I know they worked with Elsie to do some fitness events this past year. So our new staff are very energized about that and love working with staff in both districts to make sure that you know, again, the love is being spread on both sides of town. So.
And I was just gonna add on that part, we, this Nakaya and Christina are both on our You Belong Here matrix. And this past summer, they really started coming to a lot of our events and had tables so that,
Oh,
you know, when
good.
we're in the neighborhoods,
Great.
you know, more people are
Yep.
knowing that we have special recreation. So they've been fantastic in the last year, I guess, with that. So a real focus that I think the You Belong Here matrix and them being a part of it has kind of helped develop. So
I know they are enjoying the opportunity to come over and meet with staff and be a part of that process. So thank you for extending that arm to them. We have, in the past, we've done a joint or done another fundraiser. We're working with 2 to 3 fundraisers per year, the marathon being one, the Double Good Popcorn Drive, which has been pretty well received, and then we were doing a bowl-a-thon. We replaced the bowl-a-thon with a CU on the field day event. We had an opportunity to work with some athletes from U of I football team last summer, and the participants were just overjoyed with that opportunity. Really, you know, looked up to those athletes. Those athletes, you know, had just as much fun with them being there, being present. And then that was one of the comments that we received in that assessment, was offering more opportunities like that for the youth. We've had some very good response to the cupcake, as we have a 100-meter dash that has kind of taken off at that event. Really just playing on that on the fact that the youth have expressed interest in the See You on the Day field is something that's being planned. So we'll get more information to you all for that one. If you have an opportunity to attend, that'd be pretty great.
Urbana will be there
Yeah. So
Great.
on May 6th. We have a health,
Oh,
we have a
yeah, I
health
was
and
gonna say, do we have
wellness
something else
thing that we're
going
gonna
on?
be
Yeah.
at, so.
Yeah.
We can join later though if we want. It lasts longer than the ribbon cutting
Yes,
or the
yes.
groundbreaking.
there you go.
And I know you said where it was, I've already forgotten.
It'll be at the facility.
Okay.
At CUSR Center.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a nice little grassy area just
Mm-hmm.
north of the facility that kind of leads into Unit 4's backyard,
Yeah.
but we've already worked out the arrangement to kind of utilize that whole
Great.
space, so it should be pretty fun.
Terrific.
Within our youth and teen area, we will be offering 2 camps again this year. It's been a struggle to kind of get that up and running back to the kind of the level that we had a few years back. So the last couple years, we've had 1 combined camp, and I'm sure you all could probably share the same sentiment here. It'd be a lot hard to attend a camp when you have a 5-year-old in the same room with an 18-year-old. So hence the reason we're bringing the 2 camps back, Camp Spirit and then FKO for kids only. So that they can have an opportunity to recreate and you know, spend time with peers they're similar age, you know, and have a good time. So introducing more youth programs and revamping our youth offerings as part of the See You on the Day field event represents an area there. In our adults budget, we have been offering parent/caregiver participant resource opportunities. So a lot more conversation, dialogue is taking place with parents. We'll get random emails from community residents in the community asking about what can CUSR offer them in the way of working with their kids. So whether it's identifying someone that can come in the home and offer respite care, or just, you know, having the opportunity to talk to individuals that are in the field and specialize within that realm to see, you know, what types of new things that they can introduce to the kid's life and that will have some impact. So lots of conversations taken with community residents. One of the most popular things we've ever offered under the adults area is the overnight trips. So they are very stoked about that. We were doing pretty kind of local trips for the last couple of years, but we're trying to up the game now. A lot of the group homes are now working a little closer with us to get participants to our programs and facilities. So right now what we have planned is a trip to Wisconsin, Missouri, and we're going to take a stab at Hawaii again this year. I think we did that went to Hawaii several years ago. I want to say, I think Tony Oligniesto was in place
sure,
at that
yeah.
time. Just amazing pictures. What an amazing experience for the staff as well as the participants to go and you know, be able to do some luau's and all those good things. So we have several participants that are really excited and planning to go to that one. So in our transportation area, we've requested more funds to increase that budget so that we can inch back up to the level of transportation that we used to provide for the various programs, one being Special Olympics. You know, there's a lot of travel going to different cities and competitions that take place. And then with the adult day program that we've recently launched with Nikaya has just really taken off as well. So that hence the increases in the transportation budget. And then when we have an opportunity, we do have an old repurposed MTD bus that our special events division kind of coordinates. So that's their peer under the recreation department, and they utilize that bus as well so that all of the participants can ride together for certain trips. Within the admin area, we have several staff that are pursuing more professional development opportunities, so we're trying to make sure that they are getting the training and have the opportunity to go out and see what other individuals are doing in their field and build those contacts, those relationships. It never hurts, and what we say in recreation, hardly anything's new. A lot of it's either begged or borrowed for. So having those contacts and those individuals that they can reach out to find out, again, what's working well within their area, looking at different policies, looking at how you can operate certain areas within special recreation, and just really trying to make sure that we are in line and currently kind of operating as other SRAs up north and kind of in the area are doing. Several of the coordinators are pursuing their CPRP certification. We are definitely actively pursuing more interns as it's trying to balance out that staff need. We're still working to get, again, back up to the level that we used to be, so those interns do play a huge role in our operation and how we deliver our services, evidenced by Cole being a recent intern, and now he's a full-time staff member. And then overall, we worked as the leadership team on the Park District side, worked really hard to encourage our board to kind of up those pay rates to make it more attractive for people to come work at CUSR. That's been probably one of the things that we've heard the most, and I think that's across the board, regardless whether it's CUSR or cultural arts or anything like that. Making sure that we're offering a competitive pay rates and making our organization more attractive. You know, we felt we've done that by having a new facility that they can call their own, which is very nice. So increasing those pay rates have really kind of upped the game. So we've seen some increases in staff and still working through that process to get ready for summer and summer camps and fall programming as we get close. So. In summation, we've looked at, we have revised our sponsorship opportunities, which is definitely creating awareness about CUSR, refreshing program content and associated benefits with a targeted marketing strategy to get, again, to create that awareness and get more people interested in the program, and then offering new and innovative programming in line with current trends in parks and recreation. While securing interns from various colleges, EIU, U of I, ISU, to help us deliver those services and, again, get more individuals in the field that have that specialized training, education background within our mix so that we can continue to be as innovative as we possibly can. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Didn't really touch on too many numbers. Really wanted to just provide more information about how the process works. I believe that you happen to, so
Yep.
you have a copy of all the numbers.
Yeah.
So happy to answer any questions that you may have. If I'm unable to, I'll definitely get an answer and get it back to you right away. So.
Jamil, we had I don't remember how long ago it was, a couple of months maybe, probably longer than that, because time kind of goes by fast. But we had an email, someone commenting about the high costs of the special rec. I assume you got a copy of that too. What was your reaction to that, man? How should, what? I mean, because I agreed,
Yeah.
not having this sort of information in front of me, that it was in fact. I was not quite so comfortable because I seem to remember the person wrote about there wasn't much help in the group homes for folks, and I wasn't sure that was
Yeah.
maybe too accurate.
Yeah.
But just out of curiosity, what's,
Yeah, and I was a little surprised to see that too. You know, the programs are priced pretty in line with what, you know, kind of what the current market has established as far as touching base with other similar type organizations. One thing that we did do was reach out and make people aware of our scholarship opportunities.
yeah, because you do have a,
We have a
Yeah.
pretty plentiful scholarship
Yeah, that's what I
pot,
Yeah.
evidenced by the increased numbers in the Cupcake 5K. Our Double Good fundraiser's done pretty well over the last couple of years. And then made it so that those individuals, we would offer as much assistance as we possibly could to fill out that information and assist them with those rates. And again, it's, you know, a lot of times it's really about that one-on-one, you know, staff member, that ratio, because
Right.
of the needs of the individuals that come in our
oh,
program.
yeah, I mean, it's not an inexpensive program to run. It's not like running a soccer program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're, so we're, again, doing everything that we can to educate them a little bit more about how the price structure came to what that price is, but then also making sure that they're aware that we do have those scholarships available, and that we'll do everything we can to get them into the program. So,
Good.
and we haven't turned anyone away. When it gets to that level, then, you know, we try to make that as barrier-free as possible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
however much is needed to award to that program, we do our best to meet that need.
Good.
So,
Good.
Nancy, we also talked about having staff do some comparative with like Bloomington Normal's program. Their
Yeah,
summer
that would be a
program,
good comparison.
just to see, to keep up. I
Sure.
think, you know, our staff works very similar to their staff.
Uh-huh.
We're always looking at pricing, looking at program feedback, you know,
Right.
seeing how many programs go, how many cancels. So we were a little surprised by that, but it's probably good to do a comparative and make sure we're, you know, keeping tabs on what things cost.
Right, right. I mean, because are there many other special rec agencies throughout? I mean, there would be even anywhere comparable to us? I mean, because we obviously can't use Chicago. That's
Right.
kind of off the table right
Bloomington
away.
Normal, Southern Illinois. got-
Bloomington Normal is
Yeah.
probably the
Pretty
most
closest.
comparative.
Yeah,
Closest.
Yeah.
Kankakee has a program that's a little
Yeah.
bit, maybe out of our region, you know, a little further away.
sure.
But at least, you know, to double check, make sure. And then as Jamil said, you'd have to look at each program, what it's offered. For example, the horse training and horse riding programs
Yeah.
tend to be a little more expensive, but there's a high interest, and we're one of the few groups that can
Yeah.
provide that.
Yep, yep.
You know, if you look at some of the specialty things, theater and film, and, you know, not a lot of groups are doing those kind of programs.
Yeah, I would think
as well.
hardly any.
So like both park districts, we're trying to provide things that are free,
Yep,
low cost, and then maybe some things that people would choose or, you know, plan for, you
Yeah.
know, that might cost a little more,
Yeah.
like the overnight trips or some
Oh,
of those
yeah.
specialty.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, he said it correctly. We're trying to offer the best mix that we possibly can. You know, one of the things that we've done, we have dances, right, for the program, and which are pretty popular. We were hiring a DJ to come in, and so that was adding a little bit cost to the event. So just by speaking with the participants and looking at that and understanding that you know, we want to try to make that as easy to access as possible. We cut out the DJ portion and we work with the participants. Now they're the DJs.
Oh, even more fun. Oh, great.
So they have a good time.
Oh, I bet they do.
And they're definitely playing DJ, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Well, with their stage experience now,
Well, yeah.
they're getting
And the
stronger.
stage.
Yeah,
Stage
it's
is
true.
huge.
Yeah.
It's true. So what are the awards things that are coming up? Are we?
We have the CSR banquet.
Yep.
I believe that's April 25th. That'll be at the CUSR Center. Then
Okay,
See You on the Day field will be sometime this summer, so we'll get that information to you as well.
okay, great.
And, you know, again, kind of furthering that conversation about balancing it out and making sure that it's accessible, you know, pursuing other ways to fund the program and kind of underwrite some of those expenses. We actually just applied for a grant from the Orange Crush and was awarded that a grant
Yeah, I
in the
saw
amount of
that.
$1,600. So again, we're doing everything that we can to, you know, kind of level that playing field, but make sure that, you know, things are as accessible as they possibly can.
Well,
be.
I mean, it's an important but not an inexpensive program to run in general, so that, I see that, yeah. Good. We need to do anything? We need to
No?
No?
accept anything?
No?
Okay.
So if there are no further comments or questions, I'd like to thank you, Jamil, for coming out this
Yeah.
evening,
Thank you very much.
for an excellent
thanks.
presentation for us.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy coming over and hanging out, so
Good.
I'm happy
Nice
to
to
be
see you
here.
again.
If I may throw a shameless plug out, we're hiring, just like we're
You coach here, you
Yeah, so,
horrible person you.
you know, we need more inclusion aids, but that helps out both sides. So if you know anyone
Yeah.
that's interested, please send them our way.
Yeah.
And then we are also relaunching our advisory board. So
Oh, good.
we're trying to mimic as best we can UpDAC. So if you have any individuals that you feel might be a good fit, please send them our way, and we want to you know, have as many people at the table to help us out and be a supporter. So.
I would be interested in doing that, since I'm just about done here, so, yeah, that would be
I will make sure Christina knows that.
great, that would be lovely, because that's a long-term interest of mine, so that would be, I'd like that.
Great.
So you're just looking for inclusion aids, correct?
I'm too old for that.
Pick up the cards.
Thanks, Jamil, I appreciate you coming.
Good
No problem.
information.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take off. I gotta go home and get my little one.
Yeah, yeah, gotta get
Yeah.
to bed.
But again, thank you. You guys have a good rest of the evening.
You too.
Too.
Nice to see you
soon.
again.
Later.
Thank you.
See ya.
Take care.
Okay, moving on to the UpDeck report. Any,
Yeah. none of
Comments
us
or
were there.
questions?
Yeah, I don't think anybody made it.
No.
yeah,
We had another meeting that evening, but
Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounded like
right.
a
heard they had
really
a good time.
Yeah.
right, so, I mean, yeah, we got the minutes from it, so.
Right?
Yep.
All righty, if there are no questions or things to add there, we can move on to our consent agenda. And the consent agenda this evening, the suggested one, is comprised of approval of the minutes of the March 7 study session, approval of the minutes of the March 14 regular board meeting, and approval of the minutes of the March 28 special board meeting. A receipt of the 3 monthly departmental reports, action to accept the philanthropy report and gifts listed with gratitude, approval of the monthly paid accounts payable, action to receive post-issuance tax compliance report, action to approve resolution 2023-01 to designate committed ending fund balances, and action to approve resolution 2023-02 to designate assigned ending fund balances. So it's the purview of any commissioner to remove any or all of these items for separate action. Is there any desire to do that?
I move to approve all the action items on the consent agenda and accept all the information items listed on the consent agenda in an omnibus manner.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded, and under our rules, at this point, there's to be no further discussion. We need to hold a roll call vote. Start with Cedric.
I,
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. So we can move on then to the reports, financial reports.
here we go, group one. Revenue and expenditure reports. Page one is our sum one. This is going to be, these are our unaudited results for 11 months as of January, March 31st, 2023. Sum one, this is all funds, less capital improvements. Total revenues, $13,127,290. Total expenditures, $11,744,467, resulting in a surplus after 11 months, meaning there is an excess of revenues versus expenses paid of $1.382 million. Page two, sum two. This is the capital funds standalone. Total revenues, $2,469,885. Total expenditures, $2,949,980. Expenditures exceed revenues, resulting in a deficit of $480,094. Page three, sum three, this is all funds district-wide. Just noting at the very bottom, ending fund balance of all funds, $14,755,969. Remaining pages are our major working funds, general, recreation, museum, and last page is the indoor pool UIAC. Any questions or comments on the financials? Moving to the treasurer's report, I'm sorry? All good? Okay. Moving to the treasurer's report. This is the amount of cash the district has on a single day on March 31st, 2023. The left side is listing all 25 funds and where they're all invested, or this is all cash on hand, all the banks that they're in. Bottom right-hand corner is giving us all funds of $17,445,619.44. Page two, top section lists all the amounts that we have in interest-bearing accounts. Of the amount on page one of $17,445,000, total dollars on hand, $15,804,000 is invested in varying rates. Good news, just redid some CDs at 5.35% in March, so
Woo.
yay. Investing is good to us at the moment. Take advantage of it. The bottom of page two is our interfund loans. There is no new activity in the month of March. And page three is our disbursements for the month of March. Vendor payments here match the accounts payable report mentioned in the consent agenda previously. And total disbursements of funds, which include all payroll and vendors, is $619,489.42. Present to you the treasurer's report for audit.
I move we accept the treasurer's report for audit.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously.
Moving on to the capital budget reports. It's a busy month across a lot of them. Marking with an asterisk in our column of activity. And the page one is the 2019 ARS bonds. No revenues, new revenues actually for March, but there was one expenditure with the Crystal Lake Rehab Project, $4,927 to start excavating. 2023 budget, we did receive some revenue in the tributes and donations, $3,550, which went towards ADA benches and a tree and plaque. And below in the expenditures under construction crew projects, we had $143,000 or $143 for rock. All expenditures.
You're getting like me now.
No wonder people collect rocks.
2022 budget, no revenues here. Expenditures under construction crew projects, $1,272. This was miscellaneous, several invoices, some rock, some lumber, some glue. Hardscapes and fencing for Blair Tennis, $7,497 was paid to SK Fence. And $2,954 to Smith Burgett for party play at Meadowbrook Park. This was a cost estimate. Also at Blair Park, tennis court revitalization using donations, $375 towards the donor plaque. 2021, no new revenues. Under expenditures for hardscapes and fencing, $3,276 expended to MSA. This was for evaluation number 5, hardscapes evaluation number 5. Under the ADA capital projects, we spent $3,065 for an automatic door opener. And under the outdoor learning pavilion, using the museum fund transfer, $7,680 towards design and $1,251 towards supplies. 2020 had one expenditure under hardscapes and fencing. This was $250 for the ITEP permit fee. 2019 had no revenues or expenditures to report for March. 2018 had no new revenues, and we had some expenditures under tributes and donations, $1,750 towards a donor plaque, and Trails Project, $22,589 to start excavating. This was, again, part of the Crystal Lake Park Rehab Construction number 9. And everybody is going to be so excited to hear that the 2017 has expended its entire budget with that $10 lingering around to start excavating.
Oh.
That one will no longer be on our reports.
Did we really write them a
Yay.
check for $10?
No, it was a whole invoice,
Good.
of which $10
$10.
went here.
Making sure.
So we got it off the books. We like it.
All right.
This probably saved $10 worth of paper getting rid of that one
I
page.
know, right?
Except it's on the back side of the page
oh,
anyway.
rats.
Still
You
wasting
can't
your
win.
paper. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Derek and Andy, and they'll give us some updates on capital projects.
I think last month I didn't have any pictures, but I am bringing them back by popular demand this month, and we'll probably have them for quite a while now as we have construction activity starting to pop up in our parks. And starting with ITEP Broadway, this is the multi-use path connection from the Park Street project, heading north along Broadway, and we'll have the pedestrian bridge over the saline, and then a connection to the existing multi-use path that heads north on Broadway towards the Pool and Nature Center. I think Corky had just mentioned a little while ago that Stark actually started on the project. Last Friday they were on site to start putting in the silt fence. This is a couple images from this afternoon looking. This image here on the left is looking north towards what will be the bridge. The bridge will actually be located kind of behind this tree. And then looking south, you can really see the path, how it will kind of move and curve and go through here towards that corner of Park and Broadway. And Stark moves pretty fast. I kind of had experience with that for the previous project, so this is already impressive. In like 2 days,
Yeah.
we're at this point. So I'm definitely remembering now how fast they moved on our previous ITEP and through the rehab project, really. Once they have people on site, they get going. And so schedule-wise, they're going to have the path, done well before the bridge is delivered. So there's going to be one mobilization where they're going to complete the path work. We're going to pause the construction and wait for the bridge to arrive, which is anticipated sometime in August. Then they will come back and finish up the bridge work. And that should be all done in September. But there will be some landscaping work that's going to get pushed back a little bit into October for some native seeds along the shoreline.
You might be interested in knowing at the Sunday morning bird walk, people were complaining about going on the other, the bridge right along.
And I said,
you guys see all this dirt here, right? There's gonna be a bridge there,
Yes.
so they're thrilled, so,
Should be done in September.
That'll be great.
just in time for fall bird walk.
So staying in Crystal Lake Park, I think I updated a number of times on this retaining wall in the Lower
Yeah.
West Lake House parking lot. We do have an executed change order that has our masonry subcontractor will be out to do that stone veneer. And so this is an image when they're putting in basically a mock-up of the wall that's going to be our basis of approval for when they complete the remaining portion of the wall. So they ordered these materials, they did a small section sample for us. Here is when they had installed it, and this is a few days later. This is probably more close to the actual color. You can see the mortar is lightened up after it's dried out. And so we've approved this mock-up, so now they've been able to order the remaining materials, which is about a 3 to 6 week lead time. And so once they get all that back in, they'll be able to complete the rest of the wall, which I think might take 2 to 3 weeks. And at that point, Open Road, the road contractor, will be able to come back in and finish their portion of the project, which is that parking area and turnaround.
Andy, can you remind me what the problem with that was? I've been going down and checking on it, and I've forgotten in the interim.
Yeah, they had a lot of, this is called, here we go. So there was a lot of popcorning, I think is what the engineer had called it. So it didn't have the relief that we wanted to have a natural stone.
Uh-huh.
And then you can see all these darker patches.
Yep.
And a big one in here where there was a joint between the two walls themselves.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to match the remaining portion of the wall, and it did not.
Boy.
And then we had some concrete, you can't really see it in this picture, also kind of start doing minor like cracks, and you could pull out some of the aggregate from it. So it
not
was
good.
unacceptable for us aesthetically.
Yep.
Fairgram did review it, and structurally we're good, but it is not the look that we were looking for at all. So
It would make one worry if the concrete's falling apart. Well, it looks great.
They said a 3-week lead time for supplies.
yeah.
I think they were dropping something off today when I was walking.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stone they can get fairly quickly, but there's other materials that are coming from out of state that would take a little bit longer. But that would be great if they can move in quicker.
And
I've been waiting for this one for a while.
so the blocks, the dirt and road or whatever will go up to that height?
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Cinder blocks.
Okay, and so health and wellness, we had a kickoff meeting with Core and Farnsworth last week. Talked a lot about site logistics, invoicing, kind of just getting our processes in order, starting to schedule out regular meetings with the project team, and then they provided us kind of their preliminary construction layout here. So they have our construction traffic. They're basically going to utilize what will be our drive and parking lot. And then here's where they're intending to place dumpsters. This will be their trailer, storage area, construction parking, portable toilets, and then the construction fencing around the entire site. So I think we're going to start sharing this with some of our community partners just to kind of open up lines of communication on the project, giving them updates on where we're at, and have a point of contact if they have any questions or concerns. I think Tim's going to start sending some of this out as well shortly. And then the last thing is, this is probably something we reviewed a couple of years ago. It's at the southwest entry to the sculpture loop. And what we're looking to do here is, this is an older rendering from that time. We have a few minor adjustments. Here you can see a little bit more of an accurate layout with a half circle, stamped and colored decorative concrete with seating blocks. This area off to what is the south will just remain vacant, and that'll be our accessible seating location. And then we'll have an interp sign and park map then included on the northern portion of the half circle. So here you can kind of see an overhead plan view looking at how that would lay out with that entry coming from the west. And we're looking to get started getting pricing on this, and should hopefully have this going into construction here early to midsummer and wrap up by the end of the summer, I would assume at this point. But I'll kind of continue to update on this.
Is this gonna be our signature stone? I mean, what I think of is, you know, the park and the pool, because that's all pretty much the same
Oh, yeah.
limestone, right? So
Yeah,
it's the same?
Yeah.
Great. I like it. It's like the U of I, and they're same brick,
Right.
it's less than our same limestone, yeah.
Yep.
Is this like where the
Randy,
bridge is
No, the other
No.
side.
on the other side?
Do you
We're
see that?
coming from the farmstead,
Okay,
the
gotcha.
Ray Street parking lot.
in the diagram on the right, Clark Lindsay's just in the left corner there.
Oh, okay. I also thought it was.
Really? I like, oh, that's so weird because it's
Vacation
like, I
rat.
feel like that spot isn't shaped like that, but.
It is.
All right, no, I believe it.
And if anyone would know, it would be Roger.
The sculpture molecular reflection,
Mhm.
that's in the,
On the right
Yeah.
side.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should be a really nice location and a great place to work on the interpretive. I know Savannah at the Nature Center has been working with a team on the interpretive.
Oh, good.
It's really shaping up with a really great message and a lot of good information.
Great.
good,
Yeah, so there is a donor sign off the bridge by Prairie Play,
yes.
but then this will kind of replace that information within this area.
It's a
Gotcha.
much quieter location to sit
Yeah.
and
Yes,
reflect
it is.
Right.
than the
Yes, it
bridge.
is.
True.
You can tell by that guy reading how reflective it is.
There are no cars on Windsor driving by quite
No,
as close.
that's right.
We'll also have
The
the
deer
And
might
then you're
bother
also,
you,
we're
but-
also updating the sculpture.
donors. We'll have names
Yeah.
carved into the stone, so we'll recognize the
Go ahead and
donors. So
share
we'll
again.
move from the wood sign that's out near the bridge when you come in on the west side to a more refined, defined location.
Then we're also updating all of the information signs at the sculpture.
Correct.
with-
Do we have a rendering or anything of what those are going to look like?
Looked at those a while
We
ago.
do.
Yeah, I think we saw some.
Yeah, I think Derek shared it at a couple of
It's
meetings.
been a while
ago.
ago.
We
Okay,
Seems like
I
it.
guess I
can go
forgot.
up now if we
forgot
need
to.
to while we're here, if you'd like. Why don't we do that, then everyone will have a fresh look. I think when we approved a couple of months ago
This is all
to
using the
use the
Brown
Brown
Fund.
I think that's
That's
when we
right,
shared more.
that's
Yeah, but
right,
we can pull
that's
it up,
right.
I think,
Yep.
and give you another peek at it. I think those are really gonna be sharp and really start to define our site.
It's really terrific to have those photographs. That's really,
It really makes a
yeah,
huge
yeah.
difference.
Thank you so much for doing that,
Yes,
Andy.
Agree.
Yep.
this was the,
Oh,
yeah,
Well,
that,
those
this
are
was the
not-
present image that they pulled the concepts from, if we go down a few now, Andy. This is what we're looking at.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
that's right,
Mhm.
I remember now. That's gonna be such an improvement.
Right,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a
Classy.
nice continuation
right.
of the other signs in the park like that.
Yes.
Just having something visible too, so you know where to cue your eye.
Yeah. Yep,
You know,
yep.
instead of, it might be here somewhere. You know, they're just hard to see, the posts.
Yeah,
Old ones for geolocating.
Thanks.
Great. Then we're ready to move on to the executive director's report.
Sure, I think we have a couple of things. Andy, why don't we go back to the slides? We'll start off with things, kind of a part of our You Belong Here message, looking at Centennial Park. One of the needs that we want to talk with our legislators about is helping improve the access at the CUSR Center. I know the staff worked
Yes.
on putting a few images together. This is Centennial Park.
Yeah.
North is actually to your left and is up near the school. You can see the track and the school. South would be the main part of the park on the right side, where the pool and Jefferson School and the CUSR Center are. And if you can go to the next slide, I think that's a little more.
Yeah.
So that building you see there next to the tennis courts is this USR Center as it's been improved. One of the issues, I think if you've been paying attention or have been over or came to the open house,
Yep.
concern we have is that road, Sangamon Drive, that goes through. It is a city street, so it connects from Mattis, cuts through a few blocks and ends up over at Duncan Road. One of the challenges, obviously, is all the traffic. So it's a great location, but we've got Jefferson School, so there's bike, ped, bus, auto, before, during, and after school and evenings, and then all of the main Champaign Park District's facilities, Leonard, Sholem, the outdoor pavilion, some of the Lindsay courts are all very popular. So we put this diagram together of maybe how you could improve. You can see sort of a new one-way drop-off. That would be a real nice addition. So we would like to talk with Senator Faraci in particular about any way he might be able to help us with that. We thought it was a really good project focus, to talk to him about, because it would perhaps be maybe state funds, but as a former city council, I'm sure he's aware of
Yep.
the street needs and situations at this location.
Yep.
And obviously, as an advocate of, accessibility, this would be a really good project. So
Yes, yep.
we're advocating strongly that, we would see some attention. So again, it's a joint need, joint opportunity, but would serve the whole neighborhood and would make the school and the park and all the facilities there much safer and easier if you're
Call it the
separating.
Bennett drop-off. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's because that was following in what Scott
Right.
Bennett was really interested
And
in.
as you know, the crosswalks obviously would help cross where the parking is. And then the last thing that isn't shown here, we've talked about considering a new playground, an accessible playground. The current playground is on the south, so you have to walk across that street
Yeah, I know,
near
that's
the
a good
large
idea.
pavilion. Very nice, poured-in-place rubberized surface, but hard to get to. So we would like in the backside, either on the, north or on that east side, consider a playground on that area. That would allow us to have everyone in and out of the building without having to cross that street. Not saying they wouldn't go to the pool or go over to Leonard, but usually they go in groups and
I know
have a
it
little
might-
more control, or
might
maybe,
cost more, but I know at Meadowbrook, the presence of those lights that people can push the buttons on
right,
do work.
they do.
Oh, do they?
I would say
Oh, good.
90 to 95% of the cars stop.
Yeah, but those
Listen,
can.
if
Otherwise
you're a
they'll run you over.
if you're a pedestrian, you know that, and so you're eyeballing that driver and making sure you stare them down and they stop.
Well,
So,
obviously, as a through street, I think Roger hit it on the head. It's confusing because you're on a regular city street and kind of your tendency is, or the pleasure drive, hey, let's drive through the park and see the trees. Something we should be thinking about the Prairie Weaver side as well. We've talked about joining those two. How do you do it? We're going to probably need some auto and ped access, but if you can avoid us through street, obviously that cuts your
Yes.
traffic, if you had a turnaround or some way to interrupt that. But anyway, we think this would be a really good add, something that's kind of been under the radar for a while. Once the building opened, we thought, now it's time to really talk about it, the access. And so we'll at least get that chance, to talk about it, see, we don't have cost estimates right now, but trying to see what kind of support we could get for a project like this.
I
Thank
wonder
you.
if you could get donors too.
Possible, we'd like to talk with our advisory committee and get that group on board and see what our boosters might have in mind, or kind of see what we could, get in place. Maybe there's a grant program we could access.
Yep.
All right, moving back to the rest of it. Just a note, City of Urbana's promoting their comprehensive plan. So if you haven't taken a look at that, they've got some new information out there. I just got the flyer. I thought I sent it on to you all. If not, I'll make a note to send that link. As you know, the Park District's been involved. We had a number of interviews with a couple of our staff and had opportunities for input. Moving on, health and wellness, the interior sculpture. We just had a meeting with Binky Donnelly. She's the artist that's going to be doing the hanging art in the lobby of the new facility. Met with our donors, Robin and Barbara Hall. The space changed. When we compressed the space, we lost a wall of glass, and we compressed that space. So the design she was working on was not translating as well in that new space, and she just needed permission to be able to make some modifications. So what we're looking at now is probably going, we don't have a final plan, but Matt talked about the opportunities, and it's probably gonna become more of a vertical cascade of light and images that will cascade out of the, so from the upper level, you'll get a nice view in that upper hall, but it'll be more of a discovery wow experience, because you can't see it as well from the outdoor like the original plan. But once you get inside the lobby, it opens up, and you'll be able to look up, and it's gonna be, it'll still be very impressive. So I think we're back on track. She's excited. The donors are excited, and so I think everything is good, but just wanted to let you know there was a change from that original plan. She'll put some new information together, and we'll get with our staff team and keep working on that.
Are we still, once upon a time, there was a conversation with the muralist
Yes, we just talked about it
Langston?
today.
Yes, is that still in?
It's in the works. We've got a couple of art pieces. We've got the interior piece at the lobby that Binky's doing. We have an outside public art sculpture that's been donated. We're working on that piece from Peter Michael, called Family Celebration, to get to the site. He's donating it. We'll have it restored and put in place. And then the murals weren't an item that we had a line item budget for, so we're lining it up. We've met several times with the artist, the muralist, but want to get the project going, see where the money is, see how we can afford to do that. It may be something we add something now and maybe come back later. We just have to identify, what it would cost, to be able to do something. So we highly desire it. I think we want to work with the artists. I think they want to work on this project. Probably need to get right down to where and how much per square footage with that cost, and start putting a number on it. Let's see, moving along, the IAPD Legislative Conference, May 2nd and 3rd, over in Springfield. There's an option for dinner Tuesday night on May 2nd, if anybody is interested. I think we have at least one commissioner so far. We'll probably, I think we also have an UPDAC meeting that night, so somebody's going to be coming back.
Study session?
Study session, sorry. And yeah, that's at the end of the month. And so we'll cover all the meetings.
Oh, wait, that's the joint study session with the
Foundation.
foundation.
Right.
Foundation, yeah.
Right. So we're kind of working on that situation. It just fell on that date. It certainly wasn't planned by us. So we'll try to cover all the bases. Just wanted to provide a little update from the coalition executive meeting we had last week. New concerns, public health, local authorities, police are really starting to target, as you know, the gun violence is starting to improve. Not saying we've arrived or it's all disappeared, but it's definitely better than the last 3 years. But the uptick now is in overdoses. I think there's been 167 overdoses countywide in this last year.
Overdose deaths.
Yes. Overdoses, I'd have to get the exact number of deaths, but it's
okay.
very concerning. But what local authorities are encouraging, and when Corky and I and rec staff met with Julie Pride and her staff, they're strongly recommending that we add Narcan stations to our vehicles and in
Yeah.
our buildings. So
Yes.
I wanted to check with the board if there's any concerns with that. We would hold and get more information, but if there are no concerns, we would like to proceed and move forward with that.
Yeah, I think
Get our
the only-
staff trained. Go ahead.
The only thing that I've heard about is that Narcan has like a short shelf life,
Right?
and that's just like the only thing that jumps up to me, that it's like it can be very expensive, and then if
And then it's gone before you've used it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing that really jumps to mind, but I think that is definitely something that's important to address and to be ready for, especially with public parks and public spaces.
Right.
So
There was a compelling program on Channel 3 News last week. A young girl had a situation, found somebody who was called in their neighborhood. Because she was trained, I think sophomore in high school, had it in her backpack, ran out, got it, went across the street and saved the person's life. So,
Yeah.
it
Holy
can be
cow.
that.
You
that
can't do any harm with it.
Can't do any
Right,
harm.
yeah.
There's
No.
So it either helps them or
Sir.
that's not what they needed.
Right.
So again,
And if cost of the medication is an issue, is that something
we
that
want to get more information about that.
public health could
I'm
help
hearing free, and then I'm wanting to get the cost, and I didn't know if it's continual supply or how does that work. But if there's any way we could afford it, if it's a cost, really it's it's something, we found a way to afford AEDs. And so,
Exactly.
I would suggest this might be more likely, more frequent, and parks are often a place where
Yeah.
those kind of situations take place, for a variety of reasons. So just getting our staff prepared and, be comfortable and,
Yeah.
at our main facilities.
Yeah, I think the trucks are especially important, 'cause,
Trucks,
yeah.
Derek's staff are out and about, they might be that person that could make a difference. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think we'd want to take it lightly or, wait too long. Great, we'll go ahead. and
I do know,
information.
my wife works in this field. She does trainings for the Narcanas also, but right now, public health and hospitals are getting all kinds of funding to give these
Uh-huh.
Narcan little tubes to anybody who needs them. So, I mean, that's now. I'm not saying that they'll keep replenishing them over time, but
Yeah.
right now, we could, I could have 3 cases tomorrow if I needed them,
Right.
And it's, you don't need any special training, anything
Well, I think you
in
told
terms
it's-
of how to,
Well, you get a training just so you're comfortable with it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it really is a nasal spray,
yeah.
and you put it in your nose and you press it.
Channel 3 showed high school kids in first aid, learning
Yeah.
how to do it. So
Yeah.
we do first aid,
Sure.
all the time.
Yep,
So that
yep.
might become part of our training, or we'll find a way to get folks trained.
That's great.
Moving on, just update on the King Park Peace Poll. As you know, the Urbana Rotary Club's partnering with the Urbana Park District. The clubs contributed $2,000 and wrote a Urbana Arts Grant, received $1,000. So that gave us a budget of $3,000. We've hired, Park District has hired Janelle Davenport Pleasure. She's Urbana's Poet Laureate, as one of the artists. She's a working artist. Also working with Lisa Kessler. She's another local artist, and thought the team of them would be a really good match. So we had them join us at the Rotary meeting, got some input on, at least from the committee, talked with the, little more input with Arts and Culture team. I know we're gonna have the artists join us at the Jetty Roads next meeting to kind of get some feedback in that group. Also, King School, the after-school program, worked with some of the kids to get some ideas. And then Janet's working on new yard signs or posters that will go up in King Park that will have a QR code. So that's really designated or geared to anybody who's not connected to us, not in any of these groups, and it may just be a pass-through. Might see it, click on it, and, a basic question of what does peace mean or mean to you. So trying to collect feedback and ideas. In our little Rotary session, we probably had 10 different ideas of what that could be. So I think that kind of proved there's a lot of different avenues, and getting kind of a holistic, viewpoint might give us some good ideas. The piece is considered semi-permanent, so it won't be there forever. And it will be shared at the Jetty Roads Day. So we're excited about that and look forward to seeing, what that will look like. Let's see a few other updates. Just wanted to report, had some really good workshops with the RST department. I participated with Sarah Sandquist in a photo voice workshop. Dr. Laura Payne had probably about 15 of her PhD students. And what they did is took photographs of parks and rec areas throughout the area. And then through the images, it's very similar to what Dr. Bill Stewart was doing with a lot of the photo type work, but basically assign feelings and emotions. And unfortunately, we saw not a lot of Urbana parks, but a lot of campus rec, and most of the resident or participants live in Orchard Downs. And I was talking with Corky, there's a huge need. We saw the facilities there, the playgrounds, they're not really that great.
Oh,
And,
yeah, I'll say.
as an outlet for Urbana or any other programs or scholarships, it's desperately needed. And I was really impressed. These students, they're adult PhD students, 3rd, 4th, 5th year students. They use our parks and services. They know our sites. They were telling me all about Blair Park. They know the trees, the tree locations. They're all aware of the new surfacing at Blair Courts. They're very keen on playgrounds because they have families and
Yeah.
kids. So, it just reminds us all, Orchard Downs and our student population are residents. They do use us and they rely on our services. So Um,
And there's no tax dollars coming in.
Right, exactly. So, I appreciate their input, so we had a lot of good discussion. And then Derek and I were in a focus group today. The group over brought Champaign and Urbana Park staff together to look at homelessness, get some background information. We thought that was informative. I think there was probably, they were there collecting information, but there's sharing as we go. And I think both of our park districts have evolved, and I think are really probably frontline providers and keeping tabs on, folks that are outside in the parks and, what's going on there. So future staff training and working with all the groups, it's super critical, to address those needs and populations. I think that's all I had in my report. Can answer any questions.
Well, hearing none, then let's move on to President's report. In terms of upcoming meetings, I'm not sure what's happening at Earth Day on April 25th. Is there something to,
Sorry, Michael, what date?
April 25th is listed here. Oh, that's the UPDAC meeting, which is going to be talking about
Yes,
CARES and
those
Earth
are
Day.
two topics, the CARES plan and
Fine,
plans for Earth Day.
yeah. Tim already mentioned the legislative conference and reception. May 2nd is our joint meeting with the study session with the Urbana Parks Foundation, and which should be most interesting with all the things that have been going on. And then May 9th is the annual board meeting, which will involve,
It's strange to call it the annual board meeting.
yeah, well, the annual meeting, yes.
Yes, yes. We tend to meet.
Where we
often,
have to go through and make the annual appointments and certify and swear in a newly elected commissioner, so.
Yep.
And that's about all I've got in that regard. Moving on to liaison reports, the Finance Study Group met on the 24th and discussed financing options for health and wellness, much of which we covered then in our study session a week ago. So I don't think there's anything new to report there. And I gather the Policy Study Group has nothing new at this point. Parks Foundation representative, Roger.
Foundation met yesterday. They approved Park District request for $135,000. $77,000 of that was for health and wellness, and $52,000 was for the Wandell Sculpture Garden 25th. And they just reminded us that Barn Bash is coming up, so that's a good way of improving our scholarship fund. So that's it.
What is the date on the Barn Bash again?
I'm sorry, I meant to say that. It's May 12th.
May 12th, okay.
No rain date. Because it can be held inside.
If they do.
Although if there's a tornado, we would prefer not to do that.
We could see it coming, though.
Yeah. Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
That's the bash part.
Yeah.
A cheerful thought.
Sorry.
And I gather also the UPDAC Planning Study Group is not met.
Correct.
Okay, nothing to report there. Moving on then to old business, there was nothing removed from the consent agenda, and there was no other old business. So let's move on to new business. We've already dealt with item A. And so item B is approval of health and wellness construction testing contract.
Planning staff has updates on that one, on item B.
Yeah, so our staff met with MET in Farnsworth prior to our bid opening, so it was probably when the bid was out to review the overall scope of our proposed project, and so that MET could provide us a proposal and estimate of costs associated with all the material and construction testing for the project. And now that we have the construction awarded, we wanted to take this to the board to have approved so that they would be ready for services as core needs starting construction in the next month or so. The proposals attached to the memo and outlines pretty detailed the number of hours and cores that they're including in their overall testing. It's an estimated budget that they would then bill us up to, but we are recommending to include a contingency that we have at 10%, just in case we get into the project and we need to authorize some additional testing as we move forward. We'd be able to do so at that level. And so their services are estimated at this point to be $39,877. And with that 10% contingency, we're recommending the total of $43,865.50. And then they would be ready here in the coming weeks if Corps needs to do any preliminary site testing.
You need to coordinate all this work with Core, and so that Core has a good understanding of what sort of testing is going to be required as well. And very similar to the approach we did with the outdoor pool, we had a not to exceed number. We came in under there, but the contingency will give us some buffer.
I move approval of, how do I say this, awarding the material testing services for the Health and Wellness Center project for $39,877.50 with a 10% contingency in the amount of $3,988 to Midwest Engineering and Testing of Champaign, Illinois.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on then to ITEP Broadway draft funding resolution.
Andy's up still.
So this was a resolution that was passed in November by the board and then submitted back to IDOT. That's part of all that paperwork that's been sitting at central office for them to execute and authorize for our funding agreement. I got a call a week or two ago from our District 5 federal funds coordinator who said the central office has a, I guess I'll say, request to change wording on one section, which is a section 3, and I have the previous section 3 in the memo, and that was wording that was taken directly from their contract. And then my understanding is someone within their legal review asked us to change it to the revised wording, which is now is shown in that memo as well, that we are appropriating $0 or as much as may be needed for the match. And so this will just get signed, approved and signed again, and it's in the signature file, and I was told to make sure that the date that it was originally approved is included, and that should be in the signature file as well with that November 8th date, and then I'll be able to get that to them tomorrow and get the agreements approved on their end.
And again, it's believed to be extremely unlikely that there would ever be any call for Park District dollars in this project, right?
Yeah, I mean, the bid came in well under our
Oh.
threshold. Like,
Yeah,
at this point, I can't imagine
yeah.
a scenario, but
We are funding some additional work north of the project.
Yeah.
That is outside the park.
Well, right.
Tied into the existing trail, so that's going to be outside, but, yeah, correct. Incidentally, this City of Urbana just got awarded 2 ITEP projects. One is the Baker's Lane project in Weaver Park. Weaver Park and Baker's Lane. The other is the Florida Avenue project, both at 100% as well.
Mhm.
And then kind of this fun side note, Kara noticed today that we made the IDOT social media website where they're advertising ITEP boards, and they showed our project in Crystal Lake Park, so
Nice.
we're good for business.
Hey.
I move to approve Resolution 2022-13, Wait, is that the right one?
It is
Yep.
correct.
Appropriating
that's
local
it.
match funds for the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program for the Broadway Avenue Multi-Use Path Project in Crystal Lake Park.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call was starting with Cedric.
Aye.
I,
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. That takes us to item D, action on ordinance 2023-01, revising the combined budget and appropriation ordinance.
Laura, did you have anything to add?
I am
This one?
happy to walk through this revision if people need any clarification. As a whole, this is just an annual process that kind of shores up all of the fund balance transfers that we do annually. Number one, literally, is just taking care of, if there's a negative balance, we can move from this fund to this fund. Number two is simply establish the Crystal Lake Pool Renewal Fund. We take 12.5% of the revenue from Crystal Lake and move that over to R&R. And this time it was an additional $1,470, so that was good. Number three is transfers from museum fund to capital improvements. We increased that from $18,000 to $257,100. That was in direct relation to the outdoor learning pavilion that was agreed upon at, I believe it was at April of last year's board meeting. And so that added $239,000 to that transfer. And to accommodate that, the transfer from the museum fund to the general fund decreased by the same amount, $247,000. Again, that we have to abide by the appropriations rules, and this was going to put us in a pickle if we didn't adjust that transfer to the general fund. So this is how we made it all work. Number four, transfers from principal bond principal and interest fund to the capital improvements fund. This is a little unique, and I'm going to hope that it's a one-off, but when we did our bonds in 2022, which we then paid in 23, because it was less than a year and new auditors, and they're going, that's a short-term, not a long-term. And so we had to kind of handle it a little differently on the books. So this is going from a 0% transfer to the $880,000 transfer. And again, it literally is just moving buckets. Normally we pay it out of one, we just had to move it to another this time because it was a short term. Number five is our scholarships. It's unfortunate that those are always down this low, but this is just adjusting out of all the different rec fund, museum, and so forth. So those are just regular adjustments. Number six is the English fund. Again, this is an annual to the indoor pool, and we had originally budgeted $5,900, but because it's always a good year for investments this year, it was $8,150, so we added $2,250 to that transfer. And then 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the annual UIAC to cover the employee IMR contribution, Social Security contribution, workers' comp expenses, etc.
I move to adopt ordinance 2023-1, revising the combined budget and appropriation ordinance.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
I,
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. And that takes us to annual compensation actions.
There was information shared with the board on 3 levels of options of compensation. Assuming the board would want to report on that, or staff can provide any additional information.
Well, okay, I mean, this is what we dealt with in executive session.
Correct.
So, I don't know that we need to read all that out.
Just need to make the motion.
Yes, so if somebody is ready
is
to
the
make
motion to approve resolution 2023-03? Resolution, no, yes, to approve the annual compensation actions. Do we need any better verbiage than that?
With a 6.48%
Yeah, well,
Okay, with a
market
6 point-
increase.
Sorry, with a 6.48
yeah.
Market increase.
market increase. Okay.
So we got move and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on this point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
All right.
and that carries unanimously. Next item is to receive the preliminary budget for FY 2023-24.
In your packet, you'll see there's the preliminary budget. Certainly don't need any board action on that at this time, but we could answer any questions if you had any. Obviously,
Pretty high-level view.
Yeah.
Again, this is a very, very preliminary, wages and salaries obviously are, experiential, plugs accounting for increases, so we've got the real numbers after this evening, so those will go in. I did receive the, levy at 5:06 on Friday evening, so, I'll have real numbers for that as well. Again, not that they're fake numbers, they're just, they're not the numbers. So, starting to get traction on
Yeah.
getting some of these numbers updated. I think really the only thing I wanna share in here is, if you go to page 1 of the preliminary draft budget, transfers out, you're gonna see a very large number there, $5,113,000. Earlier, the assigned fund balance transfer was for the 2.2 million. Again, we talked extensively about the additional 1 million, and we've also identified the additional 1.2 million gap for our health and wellness, and I have to appropriate it so that we can account for those expenditures that are coming. That's where that's happening. Doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna come out of general fund. It could come from grants. We continue to pursue any way to fund that outside of our cash flow. But at the end of the day, I have to account for it. I have to appropriate for it. So that's where that's at. So that number's gonna look alarming. Just know what it is. And everything else is pretty, I think, standard, straightforward, unless you all have any additional questions within these few pages. Other than my header did not get updated, I do apologize. I believe it still says last year at the top of each
Oh, it
page
does,
of
doesn't
each
it?
month.
Yeah.
My apologies. It's only preliminary.
right,
That's-
Yeah.
those
Sometimes
numbers
it's
can
good to live
change.
in the past, Paul.
Okay, well, there's no action required unless there are any questions, Laura? Okay, then we can move on to item G, action to approve revisions to,
We've got a
To the
typo
remi-
there.
yes, a bundle of our capital improvement budgets.
Okay, I think the last revision we did was either July or last April, so we do have quite a few revisions to show here. And feel free to follow along on the attached budgets to the memo, and I'm also pulling it up on the screen if you kind of want to walk through it with me as I go through. I'm going to start from the oldest years first, so that would be 2019, which is revision number 7. And I'll kind of work down, starting in revenues and then working down the expenses in each budget, and just kind of briefly give an overview of comments that were also included in the memo. We actualized funds from donations from the Parks Foundation, and then we had an additional $9,950 transfer from the Museum Fund for AP&C improvements. That's shown in the expenditure section, and that was for exterior exit doors. I think there was 3 doors in the basement that needed replaced. And then going into Crystal Lake Park improvements, you can see the UPF donations reflected from the revenue section, and in the general contingency has now been zeroed out with 2 projects from Dog Park last year ADA improvements. It's a new concrete pad and drinking fountain, and then the lot resurfacing with the millings. 2019A is almost completely highlighted. And health and wellness, we're recognizing a lot of new revenues, and those are associated with actualizing the donations at $1,818,000 from UPF, and then DCEO, city and county ARPA, and we have the additional transfer from general fund, the additional 1 million, and that's included in this 3.2. And then what Laura just commented on with the $1.2 million appropriation, that's now shown in here as well, and that gets us from the 1 million to the 3.2. Crystal Lake improvements section, there was 109,000, or a little bit more than that, that was moved from the basically overall contingency of Crystal Lake to the road construction contract. And then in health and wellness initiatives, that block on the bottom is just showing all those new revenue sources. And then from our bond funds, which is that top half portion, we're pulling overall funds that actually are associated with contracts. So we had our preliminary design work with Farnsworth, the traffic study with Farnsworth, and then the 272,000 is the portion of the Farnsworth contract that is not associated with park grant design. And then there's a 61,511 that's pulling from health and wellness initiatives, and that is for the athletic field study Weaver master planning work. And that takes us to 2021, where we have an increase in tributes and donations, and then now showing the museum fund transfer increase that was associated with the construction contract that was approved last year for the museum fund Updeck Pavilion. And then we had a single donation for Meadowbrook Stream Corridor of $368. Blair improvements, we had to pull another $6 from contingency to cover the overage from 85,000 to 85,006. Our Phillips roof repair, we had 50,000 budgeted.
Doing a great job.
We did not end up needing all those funds, so the remaining funds then dropped down into our general contingency. And then you can see the outdoor learning pavilion fund transfer and donation reflected from the revenue. Our garbage truck anticipated billing of $62,744. They actually billed us $10 less. My understanding is that he had to get a different source on some of the materials out of New Jersey because there was so much of a back order, and it just cost a little bit less.
Well, nice of them to pass it along.
Take it.
Yep.
So then that increases the contingency for vehicles and equipment by $10. And then in the Crystal Lake Park improvements section, our 2022 lake treatment and water testing is now pulled from that overall bond fund amount. And then our contingency, general contingency section has been increased from a couple of items up top, but then also we're pulling in specific project costs that had occurred from Blair and Perkins, field drainage at Ambucks, additional design fee for Meadowbrook Prairie Play, and then some court repairs we had done at King Park. While the Blair project was going on, we took a look at some other courts, and while the contractor was in Urbana, we had them swing over and do some minor repairs at King. And then 2022, revision 1, we had an increase in bond sales and tributes and donations. And then our donations from the foundation for tennis of $138,291. And then there was a $250 donation that did not go through the foundation, so it's shown on a separate line. And then tributes from the foundation is now recognized as well as proceeds from the auction of our 2006 Ford Ranger, which I believe used to be Derek's truck back in the day. Then the grants, the ITEP CLP Broadway project, these are funds that are reimbursed back to us. So IDOT pays for the construction contract, we pay for the engineering, and then get reimbursed from IDOT. So then you'll see the funds come in for that reimbursement. And then those items were shown in the overall expenditure section. And we had two purchases come out at this point from the equipment, and those then reduced the contingency for vehicles and equipment. And then we had the increase in the overall contingency, which was 5,000 and some change, which was reflected from the bond proceeds that we had an increase from in the revenue section. In 2023, we had another auction revenue from a half ton, and then the transfer from the Brown Fund for Wandell 25th, and a donation from the foundation for a sculpture, and that also helped offset some costs of the sculpture pad. And so moving into the expenditure section, you can see the sculpture donation and expenditures, and then the portion that went to the pad was at $1,200, and the remaining portion of the pad then was pulled from the contingency at the very bottom, the $6,100. In equipment, there's an increase in the overall budget, and that is pulled from the proceeds from the auction that was in the revenue.
Good.
I think that is all of them, but I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Okay.
Great job.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a lot of moving around.
Yes.
Anybody ready to make a motion?
I move to approve the capital improvement budgets, number 7 revision to the 2019 capital improvement budget, number 2 revision to the 2019A capital improvement budget, number 4 revision to the 2021 capital improvement budget, number 1 revision to the 2022 capital improvement budget, and number 1 to the 2023 capital improvement budget.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. And brings us to the UIAC agreement.
We've got the final draft agreement, final copy in the packet for you. As you know, we spent quite a bit of time working on this agreement. I think we looked at it at the last study session. After that time, I think Michael did point out there were, I think, 2 typos that we were able to fix. And there was a phrase on page 1, item 3, you're looking at that, 6th line down, that phrase that says, for 1 or more supplemental year terms. I think Michael recommended that it was probably redundant and was not needed. We did go back and look at the other agreements, and it was in, and I think intentionally it was placed in the agreement for whatever purposes, a backup, another note. But we confirmed with the school district if we would choose to strike through that and initial it with Michael and the school district signature, they're willing to take it out. So that came to us again late after all the reviews. We could do it however you'd like. So they're willing to do that. We could take it out or leave it as is. The typos can be fixed. So it's really the board's pleasure of how you would like to do it.
If the board were to sign it with the strike through, I just need to take it back to the
Okay,
school
that's
district and
good.
they'll initial it.
Well, yeah, I've expressed my opinion that I think it makes more sense with it gone, but, it may be down in the weeds of importance at this point.
We definitely could accommodate the removal, so that is really either way.
I don't feel strongly either way. Um,
I think it's easier if we leave it the way it is. I mean, it's not that Michael's not correct, but I think that
Oh.
it's not worth the effort that's gonna
Okay.
take to back and
Correct.
forth and all that sort of stuff, so I would move approval of the, I can only head to one page at a time.
Sure.
So I mean, you know, I can't, and I can't, well, I've only got 181 pages.
You want my paper copy here?
Slide my copy
That's all
down.
right. I think all I have to do is I move approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the Urbana Park District and the Urbana School District 116 for the operation of the Urbana Indoor Aquatic Center. Will that do?
Second.
Okay.
So, there were sort of 2 seconds, but I think.
Oh, I'll take his.
Okay, moved and seconded,
Okay.
okay. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously as well. So we got another 4-year agreement, unless some agency pulls out of it, but that's good news.
It is good news, and just to follow up, we're working on a
Yes.
public media statement that'll go out,
Good.
press release, so,
Great.
joint press release, so we'll have both districts promoting the new agreement.
And just in case anybody thinks we're slackers, because I just have this online, this is, we have 181 pages of information here. I mean, it's a lot, you know, it's a fair amount to read through. I was surprised when I saw that it was 181 pages. I mean, it's the budget, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's the preliminary budget, it's all that stuff, but there's a lot to go through on a monthly basis.
Did you warn Laura about that?
Are you kidding? No, she's young, she could read through all that.
Yeah.
Sidney
Okay.
doesn't seem to be suffering. These young kids are tough.
Alrighty, there was no new business removed from the consent agenda, so we're on to Roman numeral 11, comments from commissioners.
Just quickly, I don't remember which report, it might have been in the rec report, but I was really excited to see the free swim passes we are giving to single mother, I don't know what that program was.
You right?
Yeah, single parent households, like about 70 of them.
There's about 70 of them.
Yeah, that was great, and just, you know, third grade swim lessons might be dead, but I really appreciate that we're making some inroads with Dream and bringing kids to the pool that might not have typically had access.
Yeah.
So, and I hope that the hiring program that you're working with, what is it, Freedom School?
Freedom School.
That seems very interesting, and just encourage you to keep up that. I mean, I think that hopefully that's also not only helping with our employment needs, but training the next generation
Right.
for those to work.
Yeah, it seems like a real win-win kind of situation,
Yes,
doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, finding more money for that, and from, you know, getting Urbana businesses to contribute to that and see the value of
Right.
to the community of that kind of hiring and that kind of investment in the community is
Yeah.
really important, I think.
Other comments? Well, seeing nobody else saying, I am going to make one of my own. I hope everybody took note of the minority and women-owned business share of our new health and wellness project. Those are almost a third,
Pretty,
which I think is extremely impressive. I think does reflect an awful lot of work on the part of staff, going out and making sure that this project was well known in the community. And I just think it's an outstanding result we can all be quite proud of.
yeah. Yeah, I think, didn't you do some adjustment on, or kind of breakdown of projects so that there was more room for people to bid on smaller sections of it? Is that right? Did I get that right?
Asset of the construction management project delivery method.
Mm-hmm.
We bid, was it 12 and 12 food trade packages?
12.
12, and so that provides more opportunities for independent contractors to bid. Not under a GC, but have, get their own contract, so.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yep. So thank you for your work on that, because that's really important, too.
And if there are no other comments, we're ready then to go into our second executive session. Is there a motion that we go into executive session for some additional employment and compensation discussion?
In accordance with Section 2, Part C, Exception Number 1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act, I move to adjourn to executive session for the limited purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees.
Pick one.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, holding a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 Okay, we will be going back into executive session, but we're going to do that in this room, as I recall. All